Welcome to the NoJetStress Podcast, where we explore traveler wellbeing solutions for business and frequent flyers seeking to conquer jet lag and live healthier lives. I'm your host, Christopher Babayode, ex-flight attendant, traveler wellbeing advocate, nutritional therapist, and author. Welcome back to part 2 of my conversation with Alexander Dimitrov of AYO by Novalgy, makers of AYO Circadian glasses. In part 1, we finished off on me asking Alexander what advice he would offer anyone who doesn't understand how the circadian glasses might be useful to them. But before we get to that, I have a correction to make. To take advantage of the AYO offer, go to goayo.com. That is goayo.com. Now, back to Alexander.
Absolutely. I would love to explain, and it's a great example that you mentioned, the environment of the cabin. And one thing that I think a lot of airlines don't get right is they serve you food many times at the worst possible time. They wake you up at a time that you have fallen asleep, that you desperately need to sleep, when we know how difficult it might be sleeping in a plane. And then they wake you up to give you food, which both are wrong signals to your circadian rhythm. So yeah, I'd love to explain a bit more, share from our understanding and our experience working with different clients, both customers, regular customers to athletes, how they can benefit from the technology. So starting with the basics, the general rule of thumb is that if you're flying west, you want to delay your rhythm, meaning that you want to go to bed later and you wake up later so that you can adapt to the new time zone. Flying east, you want to advance your rhythm. So you want to get light and potentially do exercise and start your food intake earlier. But there is a big caveat there, and that is the minimum core body temperature concept that we can touch upon. But let's start with a simpler example of flying west, let's say London to New York. You're flying 5 hours time difference. Let's say the flight is 8-9 hours. Once you arrive at your destination, typically we are talking about flights during the day. So you take the flight in the morning around noon, and then you arrive in early afternoon. Because of the time difference, when it gets to, let's say, 5 p.m., it's already 10 p.m. your internal clock, London time. We are assuming here you have not started the pre-adaptation process in London, which you could do as well. Meaning that by 5 p.m., you might be already feeling sleepy because your body is telling you, well, it's time to wind down, it's time to sleep. So what you want to do is to extend your wake-up time, your awake time, and go to bed at 10, 11 p.m. local time. And to achieve that, the best signal is light. So you'd want to get daylight if there is available. If not, use AYO. So you can, let's say, even do 2 sessions in this evening or afternoon. So you can use it when you get sleepy. You can use it one which is close to bedtime, let's say at 8 p.m. So what the light does, on one side, it helps you to stay awake. On the other, it helps you to delay your rhythm. So you push your sleep onset, which would help you not only to go to bed at more normal time, but also it would help you to wake up not in the middle of the night, but towards the morning. So it's important to do that. And of course, other signals could be helpful as well. Having a dinner later in the evening, but not too close to bedtime, because that could potentially impact your sleep quality. And the other is doing an exercise. This exercise could be anything from a light exercise to even a high intensity exercise. Though again, if you do high intensity exercise, don't do it very close to bedtime, because that can also affect your sleep quality. There are many other tips. I'm sure that you've covered them already and shared with your audience during the flight, that it's good to hydrate, avoiding alcohol because it dehydrates you, and potentially other things. What could be interesting, if you'd like, we can touch upon a potential pre-adaptation period.
Now, it's funny you should say that. I believe it is the Argonne Institute in the United States that issue a pamphlet that's given, well, it's a book, given to State Department employees who travel. And the gold standard of what I remember of the advice they gave, which I thought was interesting and troublesome in both regards, was that the final thing to happen for your body to have been reset is a rapid, if I remember correctly, a rapid increase and decrease in core body temperature signifies a reset. Now, that's great to know as a tool. At the same time, the Argonne Institute advice talks about pre-trip adaptation. And the challenge I had with that was, because at the time I read this, I was an active cabin crew for British Airways. So it's like, I would do a trip, it's called a back-to-back. So London to New York, be in New York the second day, take off from New York to come back to London on day 3, be in a hotel in London the morning of day 4, then the morning of day 5, take off and go back to New York again. Pre-adaptation would be pretty hard to use. And I would do 4 of those trips a month.
Wow.
So that's, for me, that's almost like at the extreme end of a use case scenario. But I think I'm open to how one might thread that needle, because when I think of solving for the general population, I also think of those at the extreme. If you can solve for them, then everyone else can probably pick something further down that suits their case.
Exactly. So great question that you open up. And I think it's something that it's worth mentioning, and that is have a strategy before your trip. And this strategy should include whether you actually want to adapt to the new destination or try to keep your rhythm. I think for cabin crew and pilots, as I mentioned, it's more fatigue management, especially if you have such short stays in the destination. So it might be worth keeping to your home base. So in this example of keeping to your home base, what would you do? You would do the opposite. So you'd use AYO in the morning, early in the morning, both the days before the flight, and then on the day of the flight, you can wake up earlier, use it in the morning, then fly to New York, go to bed more or less as soon as you can. No need to delay your rhythm and adapt to a new destination, because that's not your strategy. Your strategy is stick more or less to the London rhythm. Then once you arrive, go to bed as soon as you can, wake up in the middle of the night because you don't want to adapt to the new destination. It might not be the best for social life if you want to have, but if you're staying for a day or two, wake up and then use AYO again in the morning. And then once you're back in London, continue with the morning usages. So basically, if you want to adapt to your destination, flying west, you want to delay your rhythm. If you want to stick to your time zone, being London in this case, you want to advance your rhythm and maintain it by getting light exposure in the morning and just being more active in the morning. So I think it's crucial to have a strategy before your trip, because if you want to cope with jet lag or if you want to feel good during your trip, I think it's important to know what you want to achieve. One other example is athletes, for example. We work a lot with top athletes, including, for example, the Spanish national female football team. They used AYO, the whole team.
That's why they won.
The one that they won, in 2020.
Why they won?
Well, potentially, it does improve performance.
Sorry, go on.
No, absolutely. And I think it makes a lot of sense, because you don't want to go and just before your important competition be worried about coping with jet lag. So what they did was to start the pre-adaptation process, meaning they wake up earlier in the morning until they reach maybe the middle of the night, use AYO every morning because there is no daylight at that time. So you cannot really do it with daylight, unfortunately. I mean, we are all proponents of daylight, but at that specific example, you cannot. So they would use AYO in the morning for a session or two to kind of advance the rhythm. They can do a morning exercise at that time to further enhance this waking up and advance the rhythm. And then once they reach the destination, they will be already almost fully adapted. So they don't need to worry about jet lag at that time or adaptation, because they can fully focus on training and get ready for the event.
Great. So I shall lean on Mickey Beyer-Clausen's interview once more, because one of the things I got from him was this distinction between circadian science and sleep science. Oftentimes, I think people mismatch the two. I think that's being dispelled more now with the likes of your product and the scientific literature and what's coming out, but it's not quite well known as such. People would think that as long as they manage sleep alone, they have a better shot at managing jet lag or traveler well-being. And that's not necessarily the case. The emphasis should be on circadian health more so than sleep. Mickey went as far as to say that circadian health is more of a determinator of sleep than the other way around.
I fully agree. And one example I can give is related to the social jet lag, which I think a lot of people would relate to. A lot of people might be sleep deprived during the week. They get too little amount of sleep, but then during the weekend, they want to catch up on that. But if you catch up too much, let's say you wake up every day at 7 in the morning for work, and then during the weekend, you go out in the night on Friday, Saturday, you wake up at 11 in the morning. Same you do it on Sunday, then what would you do on Monday? Because you'd go to bed late because you woke up at 11 on Sunday. And then you need to really then have a big sleep deprivation during the night, Sunday to Monday. So, and obviously the body does not appreciate the fact that you're constantly switching, let's say even time zones, if you will, because we're talking about 3-4 hours time difference. So potentially, if you need to go out on Friday night, it might be better to wake up on Saturday at the same time as you typically do, assuming that you're already getting sufficient amount of sleep. So if you're already sleep deprived during the week, you might want to try to shift your rhythm somehow so that you get a bit more time. The idea is to have similar times of wake up and go to bed every day, including the free days. Of course, occasionally here and there, a big change might not affect it too much. But if you do this every weekend, and then Friday and Saturday, you kind of go out and then you sleep through the whole morning, it's not the best. And I think that's where you say, do I want to sleep more? Do you want to wake up early so that it helps me sleep more the night after? So I think it helps to think for the upcoming days as well.
Okay. So I think we have now laid the scenario and the stage for the product itself. I have mine right here. Beautiful piece of equipment, very robust. I think that was my first comment when I got them. I don't know if the camera can show that, but you can see a tinge of blue there. That's literally how it gets triggered, by opening up the product. It comes in a very nice case that is, again, robust. And from being practical, as someone who travels and you're getting things in and out, or you've got to sort of like pack quickly, I love the fact that this is quite sturdy in and of itself. And to charge the product itself, it's just a USB-C. It is USB-C, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes.
That end, with an indicator light on the side here. How much would you say this weighs?
It's around 30 grams or 1 ounce.
That's beautiful.
It's the lightest light therapy product on the market. Designing comfort is something that we wanted to focus on from the very beginning, because it's something you put on your head. It's something that people might look at you and make a comment. So we wanted to make it as sleek as possible. Another thing that we did for the comfort itself, we put the electronics behind the ears so that it doesn't feel heavy on the face. So that was a design decision that helped us to make it feel even more natural.
Yeah, user-friendly. If I remember correctly, did you win a Red Dot award?
Yes, we won numerous awards, including the Red Dot Award for product design.
Great.
Award by the National Sleep Foundation as well. We won it a couple of years ago.
Right. I know Red Dot Awards specifically because a friend of mine used to be VP Europe for Aura before it went to the US. And I think they won a Red Dot Award as well. So that kind of like, I saw that connection. I thought, okay, this is great. It crossed my mind if the AYO app could actually be a substitute for Time Shifter, in a sense, being used specifically as a traveler wellness tool. I mean, I'm sure it is in a sense, and I've seen how Time Shifter works as well, and it's quite intuitive, quite easy. You put in your trip details and so on, and you go with it. But I thought, I wonder if, it's definitely complementary, but I wonder if you could actually just take the place of that. What are your thoughts without creating unnecessary competition?
No, absolutely. I think obviously, it could potentially, obviously developing a module for travel, developing a module for shift work, developing different modules to support different use cases goes in line with the general thread of circadian health, though it's very challenging and very complicated to develop each of these modules. Our general approach has been to focus on supporting the general customer in the sense that you have a holistic overview on different aspects affecting your circadian rhythm or supporting your circadian rhythm. I gotta say that the app is in early access. The potential is really out there. We have laid out the foundations, but we have so many ideas and functionalities that we are developing at the moment. In the future, we are advancing and adding a lot of these components to it. At the moment, the foundation is that it gives you a general understanding on your circadian health. So you would fill in actually the Munich chronotype questionnaire, where you'd get more or less an evaluation of how aligned you are with your circadian rhythm. What is your chronotype? The chronotype is, think of it as a nature inclination to either being more of an evening or a morning type or somewhere in the middle, which is driven predominantly by genetics, but also how you grew up and some lifestyle factors. But it's important, and one thing that it's also very important when you're traveling, if you know whether you're a morning or an evening person, it can really help you in this adaptation process. One thing is to help you understand how aligned you are with your circadian rhythm, what is your chronotype, and then it can enter how you want to use the device. So what you like to achieve in terms of waking up in the morning. So let's say you wake up currently at 7, you want to wake up at 5 for whatever reason. It will guide you throughout this process. It will tell you when is the best time to use the device, and it will also give you some additional understanding about other factors affecting the circadian rhythm, such as caffeine intake, meal timing, exercise timing, naps, when it's a good time to take a nap or not, to support that. So in a way, giving you a holistic overview on supporting your circadian rhythm with the goal of achieving this specific goal that you have set in the app.
Yeah. Okay. I think the starting point for anyone who's considering this tool would also be actually to determine their chronotype via something like the morningness or eveningness test or the MCTQ itself. You point the way in the app with the questionnaire that pops up to check your rhythm by asking you a few basic questions. But you're saying that there's more that can potentially do with a different type of data set and data. Is that fair to say? Or is that something totally different?
Yes, exactly. So something we're working, we're going to release this year is an Apple Health and Google Fit integration. So we'll be using data sets from trackers, no matter if you're using Aura or other Apple Watch, and use that information to further personalize your experience with the device and give you more, let's say, holistic and personal guidance, because it's important, obviously, to know different things. We know a lot about the circadian rhythm and circadian health, but we also do not know a lot because of the personalization. So just the other day, a bit off topic, but a study came out showing that chemotherapy or immunotherapy administered in the morning versus evening has a significantly better effect on the outcome. And this is related, obviously, to the circadian rhythm. So anything that you any output that you have within your body, whether that's food or exercise or medicine, or as you mentioned, genes, it has potentially different impact depending on the time of the day, because different processes and hormone release and other things take place. So one thing that I believe the future of circadian health will go into is really this precision and this understanding when doing something at specific time during the day for you specifically, what effect that will have. So this is something very complex, but also very exciting.
I think I did actually take Till's course at LMU Munich. And one of the last modules is specifically the implications of circadian pharmaceutical, the marriage of pharmaceuticals. Yeah. And that's what you're talking about. So we could potentially get better effects. I mean, putting it in layman's terms, you pick up some vitamins and minerals and they say recommended daily amount, and they say take 2 a day. But that might be okay for you, but it might not be right for me. And we tend to be given these general principles. And like you say, it's all about the individual and how we're able to tailor things individually. And the more we can do that, the better results we get at the other end. But I was going to ask you specifically is if there's anything else coming down the pipeline, but you've kind of like beat me to the punch. The integrations with wearables, which is great because obviously the more data, the more quality data that you can get, the more informed and the better these tools can actually help us get to where we want to go in terms of our health. So I'm going to turn the conversation to my skeptic friend at the back here, who's a frequent flyer, my imaginary skeptic friend, who says, talk to me about how circadian health can potentially be of interest to me as someone who's very productive and has my health intact while I'm being productive. Because a lot of the types of people that I deal with, yes, they want the results, but they want it on a plate delivered to them. And I think sometimes giving them an understanding of how managing your energy is pivotal in being able to manage your productivity. I'm sure you see this in the athletes that you work with for them to be able to go out there and perform. But it's really a foundation. And therefore, if people get circadian health, they can pay more attention to it intricately for long-term, larger benefits.
Absolutely. I think the first piece is education. It's really raising awareness about the importance of circadian health. And it takes time. If we look into sports, sleep was not a topic 20 years ago. Nobody was talking about sleep. Actually, if you're an athlete, you had to train even more and rest and no sleep. But nowadays, we know that in any recovery for improving performance, you need to focus on sleep. I see that shift going towards circadian health as well, and understanding when you need to do something, what effect it might have for you. So it's crucial to do that, but it takes time. It takes time, and I think people should see it for themselves. Typically, what we've seen works the best with high performance or corporations, etc., is there should be an ambassador, somebody that they trust, typically a sleep coach, a sleep expert, or a doctor, somebody who is familiar with the technology, with the science, and they introduce it to them. We've seen that work very well with the Spanish national female football team, Spanish national female hockey team. It was all brought to them by the coach, and the coach was very disciplined about that, because if you want something to work for you, any sort of behavioral change, consistency is important. So you want to do this consistently, because in this case, the coach was very disciplined and consistent for them, ensuring complying with that, they see amazing results. This is what we see also with the general population. Those who get the best effects are those who actually are committed to it and they're looking at more holistically. So yes, it can help you a lot, especially if you're not getting light, but it's not a magic pill. If you include sleep consistency, go to bed and wake up at similar times, if you include avoiding heavy meals at night, dimming the lights at night, being careful with not having a coffee late in the afternoon and things like that, then you'll have even a bigger effect, because all of this compiles and it has a much better effect on your circadian rhythm. So I think it's important education, raising awareness, somebody to kind of explain this and tell you this works, and then for you to see it on your own. But definitely, if you're committed to it, it makes a big difference.
Yeah. There are no magic pills, but we can get good use by being consistent, and boils down to habits you put in place and rituals you put in place, and getting consistent data from that will move you along. That's great. That's great. Okay, so now the AYO device is available right now on, I don't know all the outlets where you have it, but I do know it's available on Amazon in the UK. Should I say that name? But hey, it is. Is it available anywhere else? I'm curious.
Yes, so the best place to purchase it is on our website, though we sell on Amazon UK, Amazon US, and other outlets. The website, we typically provide the best offers, or including some additional things. On Amazon, for example, the app is not included. So if you want to get the app, the right place is on the website. It's something we're working on. It just takes some time. So the best is on our website, which is goayo.com. And people can order there, and we're happy to provide a 20% discount for the listeners with the code NoJetStress, one word, to be used for a few weeks during the month of April.
Lovely. I really appreciate that. Please let the listeners know the socials that they can actually reach out to you on as well.
So the socials are AYO Wearable, one word. I believe both on Instagram and Facebook, we are there. We are very open. You can see that from any online reviews. We are really a team that is open for customer feedback, and we love interacting with our customers. So if you have any question, you can use the contact form on our website and reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to connect with you.
Great. I think we managed to have the conversation without going down too many rabbit holes. Well, thank you so much, Alexander. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I'm sure our listeners will have something great to feast on and know where to contact you should they need any further help or information. Thank you very much for the offer you've extended to the listeners of this podcast. I would love to have you come back and talk more about the developments that happen with your product in the future. I really appreciate your time. We have a tradition here where we ask our guests a travel-related question, and the question is, what is your favorite destination around the world and why? So please tell us.
Well, first of all, Christopher, I really appreciate this opportunity, and it's been really a pleasure to talk to you. It's a great question, kind of caught me off guard. I think I don't really have a favorite place, but I do love going to the mountains, going to nature as much as I can. And I think one thing I realized is that to get exposed to nature, you don't need to travel too much. Nowadays, we have so much social media telling us, go to that place, go to that place. It almost feels like you're losing the surprise. They tell you where you need to go, what you need to do, what you're going to experience. And like, no, I would rather go to the village next door and have a day of something that I have not experienced before. But yeah, anything that has amazing nature, I'd love to visit.
Interesting. And just to break it down for my listeners, I would say then anywhere with a decent mountain range is good enough for you?
Absolutely.
That's great. That's like a cheat code, because there are obviously so many countries that you can get different mountain ranges. So where I normally tend to have to say, and you can only choose one country, you've circumvented that, and you can pick somewhere in the US, you can pick somewhere in Europe, in Switzerland, and that's great. I love it. Thank you so much. Please come back again, and thank you for being a guest on the NoJetStress podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Same here.
That's a wrap. Remember, wherever you go, farewell.